I got an invite to be interviewed for actually a pretty cool thing. And the problem is it's not a interview where we get on the phone and they interview me and then they take notes and publish that. It's an interview where they send me a list of questions and I need to answer them, and I'm bad at getting to these things. So normally I don't do these kinds of interviews just because I it's hard to make the time for them to sit down and like write out all my answers. But you know, when there's upside for it and I can justify my use of time this way, I'll go ahead and do it from time to time. So one of these things came in. It's a series of questions, and what I'm probably going to do is record the answers and have them transcribed, and have a content person on my team turn it into an article and send that in. So you guys today, you folks, I guess guys is not. It's not cool to say guys anymore. And I'm not making fun of people who say it's not cool to say guys anymore. But, you can't say guys anymore. So I'm saying folks from now on. So you folks get to hear my answers to these questions for a few days here as I answer them. Cause I don't even know that I would record the answers in audio format to get transcribed to send to a content person on my team. If I couldn't publish it on this show. So thanks for, thanks for listening as I do this. So the question one that I need to answer for this is, what is your background and how did you get into crypto? Okay. So I don't know that I've told this story before. So what's my background? So, Nomics is my second software company. And before doing this, I co-founded a company called Leadpages, which is now that corporate entity is called Drip, and they create a eCommerce CRM. And we acquired Drip, and it ended up being such a big thing that the company kind of pivoted around that for lots of reasons. And I think it was a smart move. So my previous company was Leadpages. I was the CEO of that company. Grew that to over 150 people, raised $38 million in venture capital. And in, I think, late 2013, so this, arguably the second, but really the first year of that company, we hired someone on our DevOps team who came to us from Best Buy, and now they live in like Palo Alto and work at Facebook and are doing like really cool things over there. I think they did cool things for us as well. But that person got me into Bitcoin, and he was a miner, and I live in Minnesota. Minnesota winters are notoriously cold, and so he had his mining equipment in his basement and claimed that on some days it produced enough heat to heat his house. So it's kind of a cool dual use of that electricity. But he got me into Bitcoin. He started talking about it quite a bit, and I'm not sure most people spent much time listening to him speak about it, but I was fascinated. It combined things that I was interested in, which was economics and money and computers and the internet, right? So it's like this combination, this amalgamation of things that I'm intensely interested in, and it just made sense. It just clicked to me, right? There are so many things or so many businesses or projects or companies that were analog, and then another company came by and created a digital version of it, and then it could, sort of that product or that idea or the sort of the function that was executed by that product could hop on the back of Moore's law and go exponential. And, not only is computational power increasing doubles every 18 months, but the connectivity of the world is going exponential as well. So it's kind of cool when you see old world businesses that can be accelerated by the connectivity and speed gains we're getting around this digital revolution and this communications revolution that we're experiencing as a human race. So, I started thinking about a lot of things, related to the digitization of old school, products or systems or whatever. And one of the examples that stood out to me was Instagram. So around the time that Kodak was going bankrupt, Instagram, which was a company that had 13 people in it when it sold to Facebook, Instagram had 13 people. It had been around for 18 months, and it sold for over $1 billion to Facebook. In fact, hold on. Let me just look up how much Facebook bought Instagram for. Okay, yeah. So Facebook paid $1 billion for Instagram, roughly. And I started seeing all these other things that have been digitized and taken on new lives and growth, right? Like the music industry, photography, what was happening with books and digital readers and Kindle, what was happening around Uber and Airbnb, just having this kind of software layer over an old world thing just had the potential to accelerate it. And there was no digital, prior to Bitcoin. There wasn't a digitally native, trustless form of money. I mean, there just wasn't a digitally native form of money that anyone took serious or, had legs. And this was the first thing that had the possibility of actually working. And, by the time I had come to it, it had been around for a while. The Bitcoin network had never been, hacked in any kind of significant way. Exchanges had, but Bitcoin hadn't. And I was really interested in this idea of as Mark Andreessen says, of software eating the world. But it's not just software that's eating the world or blockchain that can eat the world. It's like the digitization of things was eating the world. And I bought it hook, line, and sinker. So I bought some Bitcoin. I fell down the rabbit hole. I started listening to podcasts, started reading blogs, read the Bitcoin white paper, heard about Ethereum, bought some of that. And had that experience that so many people talk about when they get involved in this space. So I guess fast forward to 2018, the company that I had started had gotten to a certain size. I think I have no business running a company with over 150 people. At least for my very first company. And I went to the board and suggested that we hire our COO to be our CEO of that company. And he's still there and doing a great job and crushing it, and super excited about the work they're doing there. But I started thinking about distributed data sets a lot, even before Bitcoin. Like in the marketing tech world, which I come from, there's this real problem around customer data, and the distribution of that customer data makes it really hard to see like the 360 view of the customer and what the customer is doing throughout the customer journey and the customer life cycle. So, it's really hard to track what an individual is doing, from the very first time they come to their, your website and they're anonymous to, maybe they'll subscribe to a newsletter, maybe they'll attend a webinar, maybe they'll get on a phone call with a salesperson, maybe they'll buy, maybe they'll cancel, then maybe they'll buy again, then they'll upgrade. And, if you've spent ads to influence them at various parts of this journey, and how do you attribute the impact of those ads to the behavior they've taken. They submit support tickets in Zendesk. They open emails in MailChimp. They get on webinars with like Zoom or GoToWebinar, and their payment info is in Stripe, and their page view data is like in Google Analytics. And so you've got one user with their data distributed in all these different places, and issues around the distribution of the data have been getting worse over time. Between around 2012, 13, all the way up until like even 2017, there was this doubling every year of SaaS and of just like marketing tech apps and services and sales tech and apps as well. Hold on, I need to clear my throat. Sorry, I'm not feeling well today. So there was this doubling in sales tech apps and MarTech apps, and it led to this issue where customer data was everywhere. Like I said, some info would be in MailChimp, some info would be in Google Analytics, info about whether or not they attended a webinar and for how long and when they dropped off would be in Zoom or GoToWebinar. Stuff would be in Stripe, and so how do you get this? How do you get a 360 view of what the customer is doing when the data is so distributed? And I thought a lot about how to solve that problem. I looked at how others had tried to solve that problem, and there were some successes there. And then I started looking at the blockchain space and seeing kind of similar trends. So when we first started Nomics, if we hooked up with just a handful of integrations, we could get 50% of the trade volume on any given day. Now, in order to get 50% of the trade volume on any given day, you need to get data from like 40 exchanges or more. And so the data is becoming more distributed. And then when you take into consideration, decentralized exchanges, security token exchanges, REITs, decentralized financial products that are on the blockchain, loans, and all the venues to interact with those products, buy those products, sell those products. It's just the decentralization of data is getting crazier and crazier. And so, Nomics was created really to solve that problem. We don't talk about it very much, but like on the back end with our infrastructure, that's very much what we're focused on. So, just to bring this to a close, because I've been talking for a while now, at my previous company, one of the things we considered doing was like the acquisition of the eCommerce CRM that we made was so successful that we were looking at other acquisitions. One of the acquisitions was a webinar platform, and the person who created the webinar platform that we were most interested in acquiring is now my co-founder. And it just so happened that around the time that we were looking to make that acquisition, it was also the time that I went to the board and said we should hire our COO to be our CEO. It turned out that the acquisition of the webinar platform did not work, but then I went to that person who had created this webinar platform, or something that we were going to turn into a webinar platform. His name is not Nick Gauthier. He's my co-founder now. And I guess the rest is history, or to be determined. But I feel very hopeful and excited and optimistic. All right, so that is my background and how I got into the crypto space. Take care. Hey, thanks for listening. If you liked this content, please help me out by leaving a review on iTunes, Stitcher, or wherever you listen to podcasts. It provides me with encouragement and it helps other people find the program. Also, if you have a question that you'd like me to answer on the podcast, go to asknomics.com, leave me a question, and I'll do my best to answer it in the next few days. Thanks for listening, and see you tomorrow.